أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أرسله بالحق بشيرا ونذيرا وداعيا إلى الله بإذنه وسراجا منيرا الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا أما بعد فقال الله تعالى في محكم كتاب الحكيم وقال الحق وهو أحسن القائلين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا استعينوا بالصبر والصلاة إن الله مع الصابرين ولا تقولوا لمن يقتل في سبيل الله أموات بل أحياء ولكن لا تشعرون ولنبلونكم بشيء من الخوف والجوع ونقص من الأموال والأنفس والثمرات وبشر الصابرين الذين إذا أصابتهم مصيبة قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون أولئك عليهم صلوات من ربهم ورحمة وأولئك هم المهتدون السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعل الله آخر الأهد مني لزيارتكم السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين السلام عليكم جميعا يا شهداء كربلاء ورحمة الله وبركاته. My respected and beloved elders, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I begin in the name of Allah, Azza wa Jalla, the most beneficent, the most merciful, Malik al-Muluk, the master of all masters, Shahanshah, the king of kings, all praise and all glory belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is the creator of this universe. It is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who has given us this incredible opportunity to exist. It is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in my opinion, who created us out of His greatest mercy and has given us existence to the point where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made mercy wajib upon Himself. But there was a point where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, Katiba ala nafsi ar-rahmah, that I've made mercy wajib, I've made it mandatory upon myself. That when we look at existence and when we look at ourselves and there was a point where we weren't even worthy of being mentioned. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that the Lord of this universe created us out of His mercy, and He did so because it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who is all powerful. And our discussion begins with Surah Al-Mulk, the 67th chapter of the Quran, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala lays out very beautifully that His power, or the kingdom, and everything in this dominion is under His power, and He has power over all. تَبَارَكَ الَّذِي بِيَدِهِ الْمُلْكُ وَهُوَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues and says what? الَّذِي خَلَقَ الْمَوْتَ وَالْحَيَاةَ لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا وَهُوَ الْعَزِيزُ الْغَفُورُ. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created life and He's created death, and He's created us in order to test us, to see which one of us is amongst the best in deeds. By the way, this recitation of Quran at Fajr time, I remember one time I recited Surah Al-Mulk after Salatul Fajr, and you feel like the whole universe is around you. Chapter 67, if you look at the whole of the Quran, chapter 67 is a very existential chapter, meaning that if you really want to look and examine the principles of Islam and the principles and the power of the dominion of God, you would look and reference this chapter. Right? Even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Inna Quran al-Fajr kana mashhuda, that this recitation, this morning recitation is witnessed. Right? And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes and says something very beautiful. الَّذِي خَلَقَ سَبْعَ سَمَاوَاتٍ طِبَاقًا مَا تَرَى فِي خَلْقِ الرَّحْمَنِ مِنْ تَفَاوُتٍ فَارْجِعِ الْبَصَرَ هَلْ تَرَى مِنْ فُطُورٍ. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created everything in perfection. And for you to look at this perfection and to see if you can find a mistake in this creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues and says, ثُمَّ رَجِعِ الْبَصَرَ كَرَّتَيْنِ يَنْقَلِبْ إِلَيْكَ الْبَصَرُ خَاسِئًا وَهُوَ حَسِيرٌ. And then look again to see if you can find any imperfection in this creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, look and then look again. There's many ways that we can actually look and see how is it that God made this world perfect, right? You claim that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it perfect, but how do we know that this creation, that this Lord, that everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created, even the human being, we might see flaws in it. And there's a couple ways that we can actually go about it. The first is actually very interesting. Since you and I have been in existence, the world has been spinning at a constant rate. The earth generally spins at around 800 miles per hour. If the earth stop spinning for a single second, and I want you to really think about the utter perfection that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created this world with. That if the earth, theoretically, stopped spinning for a single second, everything that wouldn't be bolted down would go flying at 800 miles per hour in whatever direction the earth was spinning. Meaning that if the earth was rotating in this way and the earth stopped for a single moment, we would all go flying at anything not bolted down would go flying into that wall at 800 miles per hour. So if you really think about the beauty in the system of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that, by the way, when a person gets into a car accident and they hit a wall, it's that same idea that when they hit that wall, they're going flying. Their car may stop, but if they're not sitting and they don't have their seatbelt in, they're going flying at whatever speed that car was going at. It's the same idea. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates the system, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, look at this perfection. I've created it and I've made you perfect. Even if we were to look at the ideal distance that the earth should be from the sun, generally, if you try to look, when scientists look for existence on other planets, what they'll do is they'll look for two things. They'll either look for water or they'll look for silicon. They'll look for two elements. Because the earth, in order for any life to exist, there must be water on that life. In order for life to exist on that planet, there must be water on that planet. So what they do is they try to check, is that planet a certain amount of distance from the sun? Because if that water is a certain amount of distance from the sun, then it can manifest water. And if it can manifest water, it could manifest life. Right? Even the Quran says, in the Quran, it says what? وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلُّ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ. That from every little thing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created everything from water. Right? So you look at the perfection and the accuracy with which the Quran approaches and states these scientific facts, and which the perfection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created this world. Now, we've established that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all powerful. But is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala all good? Right? Because if we really were to look at it, people would say, I generally don't believe in religion because of a few reasons. Right? When people say, I don't believe in religion, they say, I don't believe in religion because I can't believe in the miracles, or I don't believe in religion because I can't believe in an intelligent creator, or I can't believe in religion because, there's harm in the world today, there's people dying, people being killed, children dying, children being butchered. I can't accept a religion, or I can't accept a God who would allow this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, God says in the Quran, He says it beautifully, that when you look and say you don't believe in a God, you don't believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's not Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who's done this injustice unto you, it's humans who are doing this injustice unto themselves. Inna Allah la yadhlimu an-nasa shay'an, walakinna an-nasa anfusahum yadhlimun. It is not Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who is unkind or unjust to the human beings. It is human beings, it is insan who is unjust to insan. It is humans who are being unjust to humans. There's people who are hungry in the world today. I'll just run you through a few statistics of how wasteful we are just in this country. By the way, if every single country in the world ate like we did in America, we would need 4 Earths to feed us. If every single country in the world ate today in America, or if every other country ate like America did, we would need 4 Earths to feed us. There's not enough resources to feed this country. 40% of the food that's produced in the United States goes to waste. And don't just think about, when you go to a restaurant or your home, but also think about when people are harvesting plants, if it doesn't look the right way or if it's not going to sell, you throw it away. $165 billion in food in the United States goes to waste. That can fill 730 football stadiums, just filled with food. So when you really look at insan, when you say people are hungry on the other side of the world, why is God doing this? Why are we being so wasteful of the resources that we have? Or we look at war, right? We say God is causing all these people to die. This is a really ridiculous notion. Because when you look at a place like, for example, I'm not going to go too much into it, but we look at the Iraq war and 500,000 people are being killed. Or in Yemen where 50,000, children projected are supposed to be killed. Is this God who is doing this, or is it insan doing it to insan? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, this is your test. I've given you these tools. I've given you these ideas. What are you going to do with it? What is it? I've given you the tools in order for you to be successful. I've guided you. But now it's up to you to stand up and speak out against this oppression. And that's where Sayyidah Zainab, the lady who spoke out after Karbala, after her brother was killed, This is where Sayyidah Zainab stands out. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in chapter 2, verses 153 to 157 has beautiful statements beginning. These statements were revealed in continuity. They were revealed all together. And these verses of Quran were revealed like a string of pearls, that one connects to the other, and when you finish the 5th verse, it connects back to the beginning. And the idea behind these verses is that it's supposed to be when insan is going through trials, when a community, alaykum salam, when a community is going through trials in this earth. We look at Surah Al-Baqarah, chapter 2, verses 153. And by the way, these verses were 100% revealed before the war of Badr. Because the idea of remaining patient through trials, patient through tribulations, it wasn't in the sense that you go to war or you go to fight somebody. The idea of these verses was to remain patient because you're going to go through a great tribulation. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala begins, and I'll translate these verses, and I'll also go through how Sayyidah Zainab lived and showed these verses in Karbala and after Karbala. Sayyidah Zainab, the first verse begins, Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu sta'inu bis sabri was salati, inna Allaha ma'as sabirin. O you who believe, Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu sta'inu bis sabri was salati. Seek Allah through patience and through prayer. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says what? Inna Allaha ma'as sabirin. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Allah is with the patient ones. The order in which these words were put together, we need to pay attention to them. Because there's a difference. We hear this verse very often where we say, Inna Allaha ma'as sabirin. But there's a difference. It doesn't say the people who remain patient are with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It says God is with the patient ones. See, there's a difference. When the creation is patient, they're with the Creator. And there's a difference when the Creator is with those who are patient. God doesn't say, that you people who are patient are with me. God says, no, I am going to be with those who are patient. Sayyidah Zainab, on that day in Karbala, she had to withstand many, many trials. You know, Sayyidah Zainab, when after the battle had ended, and Abu Abdullah al-Husayn's head, and Abu Abdullah al-Husayn has been killed, Abu Abdullah al-Husayn, Sayyidah Zainab, is now outside of her tent. Sayyidah Zainab now approaches the body of her brother. But imagine that Sayyidah Zainab, when she's looking at the body of her brother, she sees that the other army has buried all of theirs. It took a whole day for the opposing army to bury all of their soldiers, all of those who were killed. Sayyidah Zainab looked at the body of her brother, and when she saw the body of her brother, she saw that the body had no head. And that the body, when it had no head, neither did it have any kafan. It didn't have any shroud to cover it, nor was it buried. Not only did she see this, but she saw the rest of her family members in this state as well. That's why the verses, Sayyidah Zainab recites, الَّذِي غُسْلَهُ دَمُوهُ وَكَفَنَهُ رِمَالُ كَرْبَلَا بِلَا جُرْمٍ وَلَا خَطَأٍ. Where Sayyidah Zainab says what? And I'm just taking a few verses of that poem that she recited. She says that الَّذِي غُسْلُهُ دَمُوهُ, whose ghusl, whose washing of the body was his own blood, and whose rumal, whose kafan on that day was the land of Karbala. Because while the enemy, while the tyrant, while the oppressor was burying their dead, the grandson of the Holy Prophet was laying in Karbala without a shroud, without his ghusl done to him. She had to remain patient. She also had to remain patient when Sakina sees the body of her father. And when she sees the body of her father, she starts yelling. The 4-year-old daughter starts yelling. And when she starts yelling, you see what happens? She says that my father, I heard him say that whenever someone's drinking water, I want you to make sure that you remember his thirst. And when you see a martyr, when you see a person who's gharib, who's a stranger from his land, I want you to make sure that you remember my father. That's what my father said in his last moments. That Ali ibn al-Husayn, you know Ali al-Akbar, At least Ali al-Akbar was able to go and pledge his allegiance to his father and go and die. He received permission from his father at the last moment. But Ali al-Akbar did not have to see his father lying without his head. His body just lying in the sands of Karbala. Sayyidah Zainab had to console Imam Zain al-Abidin that when Sayyidah Zainab, when they entered, by the way, the people were so confused that when they entered Kufa and they were being shrouded, when the people were celebrating in Kufa, what happens is that the people are celebrating because they don't know who this is. So a man comes to Imam Zain al-Abidin. When he comes to Imam Zain al-Abidin, he says, who are you? He says, oh man, have you heard of the verse of Quran? إِنَّمَا يُرِيدُ اللَّهِ. He says, yes. Have you heard the verse of the Quran where it speaks about the قُلْ لَا أَسْأَلُكُمْ عَلَيْهِ عَجْرًا إِلَّا الْمَوَدَّةَ فِي الْقُرْبَى, that I ask nothing from you except for recompense, love for my family. What does Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam say? He says, oh man, we are that family that these verses of Quran are referring to. We are the ones. And by the way, when we talk about people who are trying to say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the cause of this bloodshed and this horror, Sayyidah Zainab had to remain patient. When she meets Ibn Ziyad, Sayyidah Zainab was standing on the side of the women and she was trying to be as calm and as patient as possible, but she didn't want to be recognized. But Ibn Ziyad, when he saw her, how can you hide the lady who was born up in the lap of prophethood, who was born up, who was raised in the glory of imamat? That he asked, who is this? They said, this is Zainab, daughter of Ali. So Ibn Ziyad looks at her and he says, what? Look at what, I'm so glad that this has happened to you. That you're a sinner, you're an evildoer, and God has brought you from this. God has shown your light. Sayyidah Zainab replies and she says what? She says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, praise be to Allah who has created us from the pure progeny and has created us from perfection. Then Ibn Ziyad says, oh Zainab, look what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has done to your brother. Zainab replies, I see nothing but beauty. I see nothing but beauty. That there's going to be a day on the day of judgment where you will be brought forth in front of those martyrs who you have killed. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take recompense for you. My time is running short, but I'll just go through this very quickly before I go into the musibah. That Sayyidah Zainab, she continues this dialogue with Ibn Ziyad. And think about it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the verses what? وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَنَقْصٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ الَّذِينَ إِذَا أَصَابَتْهُمْ مُصِيبَةٌ قَالُوا إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ. That we're going to test you with a loss of life, with a loss of health, wealth, with your loss of your children. The believers are those who say what? That when they go through this trial, they say, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala we have come, and to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala we shall return. Sayyidah Zainab, when she looks at Ibn Ziyad, she says what? She says, when he says to her, look what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has done to your brother, she says, I see nothing but beauty. You will be brought forth on the day of judgment. And she says what? O Ibn Marjana, O son of O Ibn Marjana, she says that I hope that your mother's blessings are deprived of you. This made him very angry. But Sayyidah Zainab was a lioness after Karbala. That when she needed to remain patient, she did. But brothers and sisters, Sayyidah Zainab, if you remember the last moments of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, Imam Hussein alayhi salam, he was in his final moments. There was no army left. Abu Abdullah al-Hussein looks at Sayyidah Zainab and he goes into the tents and he says, it's time for me to go. And he bids his farewell to Zainab, Rubab, Layla. Some historians mention that Layla was there, some mention that she wasn't. He gives his final salams to Kulthum. To everyone he gives his salams. He goes to Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam, and when he goes to him, he wakes him up because Imam Zain al-Abidin was sick in Karbala. When he goes to Imam Zainul Abidin, he wakes him up and he says, "Oh Zainul Abidin, it's time for me to go to battle." He says, Imam Zainul Abidin replies, and he says, "My father, Aina Zuhair?" Abu Abdullah al-Hussein replies, "Qad qutil," he's died. He says, "Aina Habib?" "Qad qutil," he's died. He's been killed. "Aina Habib?" "Qad qutil." "Aina Muslim?" "Qad qutil." "Aina Aun?" "Qad qutil." Hussein must have been thinking to himself, "My son, please stop asking me. Whoever you think is alive, they've all been killed at this point." That Zainul Abidin replies back to his father, Imam Hussein. He says, what? He says, "My father, why are you going towards jihad? Why are you going towards this war? Isn't my uncle Abbas here?" Abu Abdullah al-Hussein replies, "Qad qutil." Imam Zainul Abidin replies to Sayyidah Zainab. He says to her, "My auntie Zainab, please help me stand up. I will go and fight for my father in his final moments." Sayyidah Zainab replies, or Abu Abdullah al-Hussein replies, "No, my son, Imamat is with you. You must stay and you must remain patient." That Abu Abdullah al-Hussein passed on the Ruh al-Qudus to Imam Zainul Abidin, and he does what? It's time for him to leave towards the battlefield. As Abu Abdullah al-Hussein is going to go towards the battlefield, he says, or he hears a cry. He hears a cry, "Mahlan, mahlan, ya ibn al-Zahra. Mahlan, mahlan, ya Abu Abdullah." That the cry says what? It says, wait, oh son of Zahra. Wait, Abu Abdullah. That Sayyidah Zainab, when she goes towards Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, she says, "Oh Hussein, my father told me that in my father told me in his final moments to give you a kiss on your neck and to give you a kiss on your chest." The reason why Abu Abdullah al-Hussein was kissed on his neck is because that's where the dagger would be struck. And the reason why he was kissed on his chest by Sayyidah Zainab is because that's where Shimr would sit on his chest. Abu Abdullah al-Hussein looks at Zainab. When he looks at Zainab, he says, "Oh Zainab, allow me to kiss your arms." And she says, "Why?" She says, "Because my mother told me to kiss you on your arms, because that's where those lashes will be hit. That's where those whips will strike." That Abu Abdullah al-Hussein now is being mounted on a horse. Sayyidah Zainab helps him onto his horse. There's no army left. There's no one to help Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. That when Abu Abdullah al-Hussein is going to go towards the battlefield, that he goes towards and he looks towards his horse. He tells his horse to go. The horse doesn't go once. He says again, he says, "Go." The horse does not go. He says a third time, he says, "My steed, you've been here for me the whole day. This is the last time that I'll ask you for trouble." That Abu Abdullah al-Hussein looks at his horse. When he looks at his horse, the horse looks down. And it sees that Abu Abdullah al-Hussein sees a 4-year-old girl. Abu Abdullah al-Hussein gets down from his horse. When he gets down from his horse, he embraces his daughter Sakina. That Sakina looks at her father, and she says, "My father, has death become imminent upon you?" A 4-year-old girl asking her father, "My father, are you going to die on that battlefield? Whoever's gone towards that battlefield has not returned." That Sayyidah Zainab, that Sakina looks at her father. Abu Abdullah Hussein says, "My Sakina, I must go." That Sakina looks towards her father and she says, "My father, grant me one wish." Abu Abdullah Hussein replies, "Sakina, what's your wish?" She says, "My father, take me back to Medina." Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, Sayyidah Zainab takes Sakina. Then Abu Abdullah al-Hussein gets on his horse and he goes towards the battlefield. When he goes towards the battlefield, Abu Abdullah al-Hussein is fighting one-on-one until the enemy can no longer take this. Umar ibn Sa'ad says, "O army, go around Hussein. Go all around him. Throw whatever you can." Arrows were shot at Hussein. People who had shields or swords were throwing at Hussein. When somebody didn't have something, they would pick up rocks from the sands in Karbala and throw it at Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. That Abu Abdullah al-Hussein eventually, when he capitulates, Sayyidah Zainab saw Shimr striking the neck of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. That Sayyidah Zainab, she went towards her tent And Abu Abdullah al-Hussein was now lying headless on the plains of Karbala. This army of Umar ibn Sa'd they said we must trample upon the bodies. But every single one of the bodies had representation. There was only one from the line of Zahra and from Ali who could be trampled upon. So they said what? They took 10 horse riders and they started trampling on the body of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. That Imam Zayn al-Abidin was in his tent and he heard a cracking. Sayyidah Zainab was sitting in the tent next to Ali ibn al-Hussein, and she says, Imam Ali ibn al-Hussein looks at his auntie, and he says, my auntie Zainab, what is this cracking that I hear? Sayyidah Zainab replies, these are the bones of your father Hussein. That eventually what happens is, there's no one to protect the tents. That Umar ibn Sa'd and Shimr take their horses and they start to peek into the tents of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. When they start to peek into the tent of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, what happens is they start leaving them, they start putting them on fire. That Sayyidah Zainab asks, oh Ali ibn al-Hussein, oh my Imam, pass a ruling. Do we stay in the tents and do we burn to death, or do we protect ourselves? The first ruling, Imam Zayn al-Abidin needs to reply. He needs to tell his auntie Zainab, run from tent to tent. That there's said that Sakina came out of the tent at one point, and when she came out of the tent, she asked the historian Hamid ibn Muslim. She said, oh Hamid, give me water. That Sayyidah Zainab was trying to look and take care of Sakina. That when she's trying to look and take care of Sakina, she says what? She gets the water from the historian Hamid ibn Muslim, and she starts running towards the battlefield. Sayyidah Zainab replies, oh Sakina, why do you run towards the battlefield? She replies that I heard my father screaming, al-atash, al-atash. That one more line, brothers and sisters, that when the children would go towards, when children were running from tent to tent, they started running towards Medina. When it was replied, why are you running in that direction? They said, we're running towards Medina so our grandfather Muhammad can protect us. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. وَسَيَعْلَمُ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا عَلَى مُحَمَّدٍ أَيُّ مَنْقَلَبٍ يَنْقَلِبُونَ وَالْعَاقِبَةُ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. Ya Allah. Inshallah, let's make dua for all those who are oppressed in the world today, who are going through trials and tribulation, for all those who are orphans in this world, for all those who are struggling, for those children who are being killed, butchered, who are going hungry, who are thirsty. Inshallah, let's recite Aman Yujib 5 times for their safety and for their protection. Inshallah, for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to hasten the reappearance of our 12th and awaited Imam. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء 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 اللهم شافي كل مريض بحق مريض كربلاء زين العابدين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين ربنا وتقبل دعاء وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. الله